finally we have a device that allows us to be able to express the switching our brains were designed to do.
Welcome to Schools In, your go-to podcast for cutting-edge insights in learning. From early education to lifelong development, we dive into trends, innovations, and challenges facing learners of all ages. I'm Denise Pope, Senior Lecturer at Stanford's Graduate School of Education and co-founder of Challenge Success.
And I'm Dan Schwartz. I'm the Dean of the Graduate School of Education and the Faculty Director of the Stanford Accelerator for Learning.
Together, we bring you expert perspectives and conversations to help you stay curious, inspired, and informed.
Hi, Denise.
Hi, Dan.
Always good to see you.
Same.
So I have a question for you. If you looked at my cell phone, say, you had a screenshot like every 5 seconds, at the end of the day, what would you have learned about me? What do you think you would learn about me?
Oh my gosh, I think so much. I would learn so much. I would see everything
No,
you've
no,
been doing.
No, the question is, what would you learn? Not could you learn?
Oh,
So
okay.
what-
What would I? I would learn if you are a texter, if you are a phone talker. I would learn maybe some internet sites that you look at.
No. But I want to know what you learned about me. Like guess. Like,
you want me to actually say,
I'd learn that
Dan.
I'd learn that you're like on Facebook telling the world about your opinion nonstop.
Yeah, I don't think I would learn that about you, Dan. That does not sound like you. I think this is I'm going to be honest. I think that Dan Schwartz is probably not so much a phone guy because you're on your computer for work for much of the day. So my guess would be that this is a total guess. During the day, Dan Schwartz is not on his phone a lot, maybe answering a quick text like, who's picking up food for dinner, or a quick text like, how much longer are you going to be in your meeting because we have someone else coming in. I think those kinds of things are happening on your phone, but I would not peg you as someone who, the minute there's a break, you pick up your phone and you start scrolling and looking at dog pictures. Am I right or am I wrong?
You are, but I think I can tell you more specifically what you would learn.
Okay.
You would look at my chats and you would see that almost all my chats are, I'm really, really sorry, I'm 10 minutes late.
Yes.
Just every single one.
That's what I was guessing.
And then you know what kind of person I am.
Yeah.
I'm apologetic, but I don't do anything to fix it.
But you're also not constantly on your phone scrolling, like even at your lunch break. I don't see you as a phone scrolling person. Whereas let's flip it for just a second. If you looked at mine, I'm a news junkie, and you would learn that about me.
No, I'd learn that you're addicted to likes, that you just keep checking to see if you've gotten likes.
Oh yeah, no, that's
all.
I don't even post anything. No,
okay.
I mean, someone else does my LinkedIn. I mean, I can't. I'm not even, But I am a news junkie, and you will see that. And I text often with my children and my husband. It's a very easy way for us to communicate during the day, just like a quick little thing. But neither you or I are like, let's go shopping on the internet for the 5 minutes we have in between meetings. I don't see that happening.
You are correct. But I think it is interesting that you could figure something out about people. And I don't know the level of detail, like discovering that I continue to search for GSE swag, new ideas for swag.
For the School of Education.
Yeah. That's sort of be interesting, but it's not profound. But we have a guest who is really working on this.
Yay.
His name is Nilam Ram. He's a professor of communication psychology at Stanford. And he leads something called the Human Screenome Project, a great name.
Oh my God, I love that
name. And he's, it's really good. And he's looking at people's use of digital media from moment to moment across the lifespan. So welcome, Nilam. It's good to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So my memory of this, the Screenome Project, was that somehow you convince people to let you take a screenshot of their cell phone every 5 seconds for like 2 months, something like that.
Wow.
Is this right?
It's amazing. We install software on study participants' telephones, and we take screenshots every 5 seconds, and we've done some people even all the way up to a year now. We see everything that they travel through, all the different aspects of media that they get exposed to. things you guys were talking about with the text messages, cats, dogs, all that's in there. And
Wow.
what we
So
see.
Every
before
5 seconds, though. What? That every 5 seconds? That's so short. Like, what? How did you decide on every 5 seconds?
When we first started the project, we thought, well, that's a time scale that we haven't tried to track human behavior on out in the wild. Usually it's filling out questionnaires every couple hours. And so we thought, well, let's go all the way to 5 seconds. Technologically, it's possible. And as soon as we got 5-second data, we thought, oh, we're missing all of those little tiny aspects of when you just check your phone for the time. We miss that because that takes less than 5 seconds.
Oh, you know what I do? I look at my phone for the time. Yeah, that's like a second. And then boom, I'm on to something else. I didn't even think about that.
So before we get to what you found, why did people agree to do this? Like, is this a new generation that everything they do is public? They don't care. Like, the chances I want you to follow me around and take a picture of me every 5 seconds is zero.
You're probably not the candidate of choice, Dan.
Well, what is the psychology of someone who says, sure, my life's an open book, and in fact, I want you to see every single page of it?
Well, I think that there are some general trends in the way that we are viewing privacy of ourselves and our own behaviors. But there's also a thing about contributing to science and trying to understand both how people behave in the world and also how is it that I behave in the world. And if you learn more about me, you can help me optimize my life and help me not be late to every meeting, to provide the reminders at the right time. Like, we would be able to automatically try to provide that kind of help if we learn what those behaviors are.
It's for the good of science, Dan.
Yeah. So at my medical clinic, I agreed for them to like take my blood and store it forever. This feels a little different. Like, did these people really do this because they were contributing to science? Or did they do it because my life is so interesting? I really do want someone to see it every 5 seconds.
No, I don't see it because the data are very private. We go through to extreme levels in order to be able to keep them private so that nobody else can look at them besides the research team. And mostly it's even just our computers are looking through those images for particular types of behavior. So it's not as though we're trying to really look into the very details of people's lives in a public way at all. We keep it in a very private setting.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. So before we get to findings, this is an incredible amount of unstructured data, right? Like a picture every 5 seconds. There's no chance a human is going through all that, right? You would lose your life for every participant because it would take you 5 seconds per screen to look at it. So you have a machine do this somehow?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It's lots and lots of data. We've collected now up to, I think it's 3.5 centuries worth of people's smartphone usage.
Oh, wow. That is crazy. That's crazy. Wow.
And so in order to be able to look through that material, we are employing computational techniques in order to be able to articulate. So give an example. We think that Dan is a dog person rather than a cat person.
You would be correct, Nilam. Yes.
So we go through the images on those screenshots and we look to see, okay, how many dogs are you exposed to in the pictures and how many cats? And then we can try to do a classification of you as a dog or a cat person.
I just want to point out one thing though, because if you looked at my phone, so things that you say out loud, so I might not be, I get a lot of exercise videos. Okay. I am not like an exercise crazy person, but because I work out with a friend and we talk about this, my phone picks it up. And so you might think that I'm a crazy exercise person when really I'm just like once or twice a week walking with a friend and we're talking about it. So I worry about that a little bit. Like are you picking up actually if Dan's a dog person or if Dan's just in situations that talk about dogs and then the phone algorithm picks that up?
Everybody around me is a dog person and I really hate them because I'm a cat guy.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying, Nilam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's one of these classic person context debates about how much of the behaviors which we see and express are related to us as people or related to the context that we're moving in and out of. And I think in this project, we've sort of literally taken the screen, which is the membrane that connects us to a set of algorithms and digital context, and we're taking pictures of that screen,
That's
that
a
membrane.
yeah, that's a great way to describe it.
Yeah.
I
So
really
you're
like that.
learning about the algorithm in Dan's life that goes
As well
along
as
with
about
Dan's
Dan.
life. Yes, yes, yes. That's important. I think that's important. And also, did everyone understand that why we think the Human Screenome is such a cool name? I just want to make sure that that's clear because there is something called the Human Genome Project. And I'm assuming that's how you came up with Screenome. Yes, Nilam?
Yes, that's right.
And the human, just so folks know, what does the Human Genome Project do? It maps the genes, right? And so at all the genes, which is a lot. And so the Human Screenome is mapping all the screens that you're on basically in a day.
Yeah, one difference between the two projects is that we do like to think of the genetics and the genome as being static, like it's what what you were given when you were born. That's what's fixed. In contrast, the screenome is constantly changing. Every day, we're looking at different types of material, moving in and out of different spaces. So, in that sense, it's a much more dynamic ome or omics than genomics
So
is.
cool. I love that. So cool.
All right. So give us a taste of one of the things you found.
Yeah.
I've been stalling just to build up the anticipation.
The suspense, yeah.
Well, one of the interesting things is that how quickly it is that these devices allow us to very quickly move from one application or type of content to another application. So I can be looking at the news and also answering a text from my kids all within just a few seconds of each other. And so people are switching back and forth between these different applications on average on their smartphones every 10 or 11 seconds. And that's an average. So there are some that are shorter than that and also some which are quite a bit longer. But on average, it's switching every 12 seconds, which means we're able to do many, many things within an hour on our smartphones. So because there's so much material to switch back and forth between.
And actually, if you're taking a screenshot, it just occurred to me like I'll be listening to a podcast. Someone could be listening to this podcast right now and doing something else. Would your screenshot pick up the simultaneous use or no?
No, we can't. We are not picking up audio at this time. Although our programmers are just putting in a new module that will allow us to also get audio at the same
Oh
time.
my gosh.
So we will be able to answer that question soon, but we don't have it yet.
Okay.
So
But yeah,
so is there
even more?
so all this switching, is there some implication? So here, this is a very far analogy, but people ask me what it's like to be dean, of the school, and the answer is it's very fast. Things keep changing, and the consequence is I don't really get to savor anything, right? Because I just get one thing and then I move on to the next, right? And so is this all this switching a world of less sort of appreciating what you have because you move on so quick, or should I not care? Should I not care?
It's an interesting hypothesis. I wouldn't be able to say directly of whether people are doing less savoring or more savoring. I would put it in the context of people have multitasks since humanity began. So take a mother is doing like 6 different things simultaneously with their child and the rest of the house and the rest of the family and work and all at the same time. And so the devices are allowing for greater expression of that, or maybe we can say better measurement of that, because so much of those behaviors are now digitally mediated.
So moms are going to finally get the credit for juggling, those pictures of like a mom with like 18 balls in the air. Now you will actually show this mom actually is doing a million things at once and go mom. Yeah.
And men finally get to experience that because they have cell phones where they're juggling all these different tasks.
Or not.
So I don't know, what I think about the 10-second sort of average. Like, help me think about that. Like,
What do you
I sort of want to.
What do you mean?
Well, I sort of want to say 10 seconds. Oh, that's good. That's interesting. But it's like, okay, this is really bad. It's like when I look at the stars in the sky, on a clear night, and I look at them, I go, wow. And that's about as far as I get thinking about it. It's like, wow, that's a lot. So help me go beyond wow on the 10 seconds. Give me something to hang on to.
Well, I think that like we're our brains and minds and bodies are built in order to be able to process lots and lots of information. And that includes looking out for lions that are running across the savannah and that might eat us, as well as for the moments of the stars and appreciating the beauty of the universe that we live in. And all of that is simultaneously happening in the world. And it's happening all within this screen, all within 10 seconds of each other. So now we can move between these, what we used to think were very different kinds of content, much more quickly. And that could lead to a greater interconnection between the different parts of our lives. So our work life is not separate from our home life, because I'm doing the texting and the emailing all simultaneously within each other. So we're getting greater and greater connections. One hypothesis is we're getting greater and greater connections among the different varieties of life experience that we have.
Right. I think that's so true. If you think about like even just a newspaper, right? Because I used to get an actual newspaper and I would read it in the morning and then I would go to work and I wouldn't be turning on news or getting bings or dings on my phone, right? I'm saying this as a news junkie. And then if I wanted more news, I'd have to wait till like the 5 o'clock version or 6 o'clock when I got home. And now you get notified like urgent alert, so-and-so did this in the Senate or whatever. And it's constantly throughout the day.
And that's
Yeah.
good?
No, I don't know. Well, that's what I'm saying.
So
I
I-
think there's some good happening with connections. Like it's great that I can just like answer a quick question from a colleague who just
Right.
needs something super quick and they don't have to wait till the end of the day and I'm not disrupting their workflow. And yet there's a lot of other stuff that's disrupting workflow from.
But I have to ask the question. So there's a lot of concern that the big social media companies have algorithms that make you sort of want to stay on. And so this behavior where I'm switching to some extent is becoming, it's rewarded. And so it's driving me to switch more than I used to. Can you track someone and say, oh, this person didn't switch very much, but over time I noticed because they started using XYZ, they're switching more and more. And by the end, Denise is like checking her cell phone all the time to see what's happening in Washington, D.C., which she, doesn't really care about anyway.
Well, so we see evidence of the switching. We don't see evidence that the switching is happening differently than it is in other domains or in physical world compared to the digital world. That this is a log normally distributed thing, which means that there's a lot of short switching and there's some long segments as well. And that's exactly the same distribution of switching across different tasks that we see in the physical world as well. Same distribution. So we're not seeing that it's different. It's just that the technology is facilitating the expression of neural processes that allow us to do switching at a rate at which their brains can do. So in that sense, it's finally we have a device that allows us to be able to express the switching our brains were designed to do. Is another way to look at the question.
So one of the interesting things about genome, right, is we have lots of genes, but it's the context that determines whether they express themselves.
Oh.
Right. And so the environment you're in will activate a gene and then it'll cause some change. And so that sort of feels like the cell phone story, right? That it's kind of there, but the context is releasing my responses to it to a large extent, as opposed to me initiating a tremendous amount.
Right. I mean, I think you get everyone, can't possibly just be me, is just flooded all the time with things like I was talking to my mom about buying a dress. And then the next thing I know, all of these dress ads show up. And I didn't look for dresses even, right? It was just literally out in the ether.
Yeah. So I intentionally do not use my cell phone for certain things. Because I don't want the context to intrude.
Like what? Wait, this is so cool. Tell me.
Well, I don't shop on my cell phone, for example.
Oh.
Right, because once you do that, you get ads, they keep showing up.
Yes, this is my problem.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I could care less about it. So wait a minute.
So I'm trying to control the environment that's just on the other side of the membrane of the cell phone.
Look
So
at
that
you. That's amazing.
Who knew? Of course, I have no Facebook, no LinkedIn, nothing.
You're like one of those, right?
Go away, world.
That's interesting. I don't think I could do that because it's just so much more convenient, right? To shop
I
on
know.
your cell
I
phone.
know.
Or I look at recipes all the time. And then all of a sudden I'm just getting tons and tons of recipes and shopping lists and things like that. So there's certain things that you just don't do on your cell. You use your cell phone only for certain types of behaviors.
Yeah.
So you text.
I text. I check the airline apps. I like looking at the exercise stuff. How many steps?
You mean tracking your own steps?
The problem is, like, if I'm at the dentist and I'm waiting an hour before I go in and all I've got is my cell phone, it's tough not to start, going in. And then I'm thinking, if I do that, you start getting feeds. I don't want it.
Yes, and the big brother is watching you, and all of a sudden,
how many times can I check the weather?
So, Nilam, this is so fascinating. Now, am I right to know that you have just adults in this study, or have you included some young people?
Oh, we've also included young people. We have adolescents that are age 13 plus, and we also have for a subset of those adolescents, we also had their parents participating. So in some cases, we are looking at both the parents and the adolescents' smartphone use.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Okay, can you give us any insights into findings of young children or younger 13 through 18 and versus adults and their parents?
We haven't done yet the analysis to do the contrast between the two. One short answer is everybody's on their smartphones a lot. It's not necessarily the case that the adolescents are on often more than the adults are,
Interesting.
and that the behaviors are in part related to each other, but also not related to each other, so that the types of content that adolescents are engaging with is slightly different than the types of content that adults are engaging with.
Is that when you do you mean like TikTok or some kids spend more time on certain apps than adults do? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so there are some app differences, but there are also the types of tasks which we are engaged with are slightly different. So one of the predominant aspects of adolescence is peer relations and engaging with peers and trying to understand those peer relationships, whereas with adults are more engaged with work and family relations compared to the peer relations.
That makes sense.
And that's true both on the smartphones and off the smartphones.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That totally makes sense. Yeah.
So as a basic question, this is really fascinating. Just sort of how do people allocate their time? Are they good at it? Things like that. Are there practical applications of what you're doing? Like you've been able to detect early warning signals for kids, for example, that you follow them and you sort of say, uh-oh, this kid's heading a bad direction or something like that.
Yeah, so that's the long-term dream, is to be able to take this relatively continuous data streams of people engaged in their natural daily lives and to be able to learn patterns that exist in there and then to help people optimize those trajectories. So would we eventually be able to, if we learn the patterns, provide time-sensitive and context-sensitive interventions like text messages that would interrupt somebody's flow in order to return them towards the flow which they would like to achieve.
Oh, that's nice. That's a nice application. So are you getting, so a lot of people are worried about cell phones and various aspects of mental health. So are you sort of getting something there? Because being able to send a text to a kid that sort of says, stop what you're doing, go this other direction, you're sort of doom scrolling kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the literature generally about the relationship between social media use and mental health has been very mixed. On average, across all of the studies, it's basically there's zero association between those two. And yet at the same time, though, the empirical evidence is showing no relation. Our intuitive senses say, oh, there is a relation between my smartphone use and my own mental health. So why aren't we finding it? And in the studies the analyses we've done so far, is that we can find those associations, but they're very idiosyncratic. The way in which your smartphone use is related to your mental health is very different from the way that my smartphone use is related to my mental health. I may use my smartphone more when my mental health is low, you may use your smartphone less when your mental health is worse. So the same relation can exist in different directions for different people.
So having all the data in the world turns out to be complicated to find a clean hypothesis. Is that sort of the
You
answer
were
here?
hoping for like, yes, mental health goes down when your phone use goes up at a certain point or something. Is that what you were hoping for, Dan?
Yeah, if your home screen is orange, look
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Something simple.
It's not that simple, it sounds.
Yeah, I would say that it's definitely more complicated and much more nuanced and much more idiosyncratic. Even in a 4-week period, the relationship between my anxiety and my smartphone use may be different one month than it is from another month. So that complexity is all embedded there. And now that we have the data to be able to dive in and really look at those nuances, we're finding them everywhere. So it's very hard to make a general statement about this type of behavior is related to fluctuations in mental health.
I think there's going to be a bunch of teenagers saying yay if we have any teenage listeners, because I think so much of what you're hearing in the news and from certain cities, as you said, is like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, and kids are just really struggling as they see the party play out online that they weren't invited to, or they see everybody looking beautiful all the time and all of this. So you're basically saying, wait a minute, it's a little bit more complex than that. Yeah? Am I understanding that?
Yeah, much more complicated. Sure, there are moments when I feel as though I have been left out of something that my peers are doing, but there's also right next to them, 15 seconds later, a moment that my friend says something very nice to me. And I need
Online.
that support online, right? So all of this is happening within these 15-second snippets back to back. So it's not all bad and it's not all good. It's all mixed together and very complicated.
It's so hard as a parent, right? Because you're just so worried about your kid and this is so new and you hear so much stuff. I mean, just even you saying that makes me think it goes back to the developmental of, you want to know your kids' friends. You want to know who they're hanging out with, virtually and or in person, because you want a kid to be able to say, "Hey, no, you're great," right after they're feeling down.
Yep. Yeah. And that's hopefully what our eventual goal would be, is to be able to deliver those types of interventions in that moment when they're needed the most.
It's also a
So
little big brothery, I have to say. Right? Like, we're always watching you, but I guess people are always watching anyway. That's how I get my little, videos sent to me, is the algorithm is listening, right? So maybe it's not that different. I don't know. Sorry. I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah, I think it is true that like the algorithms are now working with us in many ways, and our hope is that we would be able to provide a set of algorithms that have a different purpose than trying to increase engagement or purchasing, and would be more interested in how it is that I'm doing as a person and the goals that I would like to achieve.
But like,
so
I know
my
you're a good guy, Neelam, and so you would be doing things for positive, but I can also see people doing things to mess with people. I don't know. It does scare me, but you're right. It's already out there, so
so
it's
so
not
Denise,
you.
I have, a fitness app
Yeah.
and it says get up and walk.
Okay.
Right. I've been sitting too long. Does that seem evil to you? I mean,
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, we can think of all the good things, right? But I could also, have you both read 1984? I mean, you can also be like, go out and consider buying a gun, and here's all the cool things about owning a gun. And if you're underage, this is how you get a gun. And now here's how you make a gun. And I don't know. I'm watching too many true crime stories clearly on TV. But right, for all the good, I am a little bit worried about that power. Neelam, you must think about this ethically.
Oh, yeah. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about the potential dual use possibilities here, both for good and for evil. And hope, yes, we are trying to promote the good side of the whole piece, but being aware that the evil side is there. And one of the reasons that our participants are engaged with us as a research institution is that we are providing a public good which is not motivated by profit in order to understand human behavior and how it's working. And so we've reached this conclusion that we have a moral obligation to try to do this research in order to provide a different way of looking at the data than a profit-motivated company might.
Yeah, no, that's important. So if there's a narrative out there that you would like to correct or get people to hedge on, what would it be about cell phone use?
Yeah, I would think that cell phone use is not bad. Like we're carrying them around for reasons that they are useful to us in many, many different ways. And they're useful to me in a different way than they are for each of you and for each of their listeners. And to sort of celebrate that heterogeneity in the ways in which they're being used, and to try to leverage them as technological innovations that can help people optimize their lives in ways that are good for them.
Okay, so you can avoid this question if you'd like. So a lot of schools are banning cell phones, and because they think they're bad in school.
Or wait, caveat.
Okay,
Not that they think they're
okay,
bad in general, but they are interrupting certain things that need to happen in school, either in the classroom in terms of learning or social activities happening at recess and lunch, whatever. I just wanted to clarify that.
I think that the empirical evidence for how effective such bans will be for particular outcomes is quite mixed. So I'm not sure if I don't. Our data don't yet can speak to
right.
this, but I am interested in the ways in which smartphones are both good and bad in
Right.
all variety of different settings.
You know what your
And
data can speak to, though, is how often the kids are on their phones during school hours and what they're doing on their phones during school hours, right?
yes, that's absolutely true. We
That's
can speak to
useful.
that. And it is quite useful, and it is a wide variety of information that we see during school hours that is being manifested.
Boy, I would
And
love to see cell phone use during different kinds of instructional tasks. Right. So are
Like
they using the
what do you mean,
cell?
like during English class versus math class?
No, more specific than that. Like you're listening to the 30th minute of a lecture, or you're doing project-based learning, right? Or you are doing word problems, or you're having small group, discussion.
Well, so okay, this is a weird question, but you're taking cell phone screenshots, and a lot of kids get their texts and apps and everything at school on their Chromebook. So you don't have access to Chromebooks.
at this point, we don't. The technology is in principle applicable to any particular screen. We went with the smartphone
You
in
went
this
with the
first
smartphone.
round
Yeah.
because that was the easiest place, and we know people carry them around with them quite regularly, etc.
Right.
So eventually this would be across all the different devices that we're working with. Probably in some cases there is data already being collected about the physical environments in which we're also engaged with it.
Right.
When we have
Right.
all of that data, we would be able to get quite complicated models of human behavior and learn a lot about how those are connected
Yeah,
to
that's
each
just
other
like
and moving forward.
that's like mind blowing to me. I do. Can I ask a silly question, Dan? I have a silly question to ask. Like, is there? You don't have to say the person's name, obviously, because of privacy. But has there been like a person where you're like, oh my gosh, this person is literally on their phone all the time? Like, who wins the prize for most on their phone all the time? That's what
Bob.
I want to know.
Bob.
Don't tell me the name. But like, have you seen like, are you surprised by just the sheer amount of time people are on their phones, or is this like, no, Denise, everybody's on their phone all the time?
So can I give a story on this?
Yeah,
So
but then I
there
want
was.
Nilam to answer.
I know we have guests who are experts.
Yes.
Whatever.
Hello. Yes.
So I had an undergraduate who wanted to work with me in my lab, and so she comes and she asks me a question, and while I start to answer, she gets onto her cell phone and starts doing something, and I stop talking, and it takes her about 5 seconds, 10 seconds to realize I've stopped talking. And I said to her, you realize that you asked me a question. As soon as I started answering it, you stopped paying attention. You went. And her response to me was, get used to it. I'm the new generation.
Yeah.
So do I,
Did Doc hire her?
so I appreciate Nilam saying it's good and bad, but there are social norms where I want to say, sorry, you lose. Like the kids at the dinner table, all on their cell phone. I want to say,
adults,
no.
and adults. And adults.
Yeah, no
It's
adults.
bad. It's
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Okay, wait, Neelam. Okay, so Neelam.
Sorry,
has
just had
something-
to. I had to
Yeah.
get it out.
Okay, that's good, Dan. That's good. I'm glad. Do you feel better? That's good.
I do feel better.
So Neelam, like, have you been shocked by anything in that sense?
Well, to this particular point, I would say that the adults are also doing many of these same types of behaviors, surprisingly more than
Yes.
we give ourselves credit for doing those types of both good and bad behaviors on the phone. So,
Sorry. What did you say? I was just checking my email. What did you say?
Yeah. No, but adults are
Yeah.
poor role models when it comes to this. 100%. The kids are the first to point that out.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I think the surprising thing for me is that the sheer range that the of media world, the digital world is humongous, and there's so many different parts and places of it that are interesting and contain all kinds of great information about so many things, way more than even exist in our current physical universe. And so being able to see that heterogeneity and the very creative ways in which people are engaged with all of that heterogeneity that are relevant to their own personal lives in meaningful ways, that's been what's surprising to me.
That's a nice
Very
way to
cool.
end.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
very
really
cool.
nice way to end. So, okay. So, Dan, I'm going to put you on the spot as I love to do. What are some takeaways from this episode that you're walking away with?
Boy, I think the theme that came through over and over in my head was there's a lot of variability in the way people use these devices, right? And so it's going to be really hard to say good or bad. So one person may use it style one, another person uses it style one. For the first person, style one was really good. For the second person, it was really bad. And so it's going to be really complicated to sort of find different pathways, through the media world we're in, to be able to make recommendations.
Neelam, if you had a sort of final takeaway to tell our listeners about this project and about this work, what would it be?
Yeah, I really like Dan's summary, and it's goes further in saying that let's not be judgmental about how each person is using their smartphone. Let's try to figure out the parts that are good for them and try to elevate those, so that everybody can benefit from it in the particular ways that are really useful for them.
Yeah. So we're going to have to, so after you analyze all this bazillions of centuries long data, we have to have you back on the show if we still exist and ask you how a parent can know, right? Or an educator can know how to amplify the good. We're looking to you as the future hope and help for all of us folks out there who are struggling with, how can we emphasize the good?
That's too hard. Neelam, just come back with the finding that when everybody's using the cell phone at the dinner table, it's bad.
Yeah, just give us some hard, don't do this. Well, and I will say we have a hard and fast no cell phones in the bedroom at night, because I do know I've seen that data. And until you come back and tell me otherwise, that's a no cell phone in the bedroom at night, advice that we give parents of kids. And obviously, and for parents too, but that's a little harder to convince them. So we look forward to your findings, Nilam.
No,
So
this was great.
thank you so much for being here. And thank all of you listeners for joining this episode of Schools In. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you tune in. I'm Denise Pope.
Sorry, I was checking the news feed. I'm Dan. I'm still Dan. I'm always Dan.
You're always Dan.
I'm always Dan.